The 2012 Census of Agriculture showed the average principal farm or ranch operator in Nebraska was 55.7 years old. But when broken down by age range, the largest group, about 14,000 of the state's nearly 50,000 farmers and ranchers, was in the 55 to 64 age category. Dave Goeller is a farm and ranch transition specialist who recently wrote an article for Cornhusker Economics here at UNL detailing the demographics of Nebraska's principal operators. As you'll hear, while some numbers have held course, one unusual group showed growth in the latest survey.
Well, by age is what we're looking at in this particular study. And the older group, the over 65 group, has continued to increase every year that we've done this ag census. The USDA does an ag census every 5 years, and it's continued to increase almost every year since as far back as I go, which is 1982 is when I started paying attention to this.
Now, since 1982, there has been one number that's been declining, and that's farmers under 35. That changed in this latest census.
It has been, and it's gone down every year, in fact, quite significantly until this 2012 census, when it jumped by 1,300 and some farms, which was pretty significant for that age group, I think. And I wish I knew the reason why specifically, but it has gone up, which is encouraging.
Do you have any opinions on maybe why? I mean, there has to be some thought as to what could be behind this jump.
Sure. Well, you know, I think some of the things that have contributed to the increase in our beginning farmer operators is we have a beginning farmer tax credit program in Nebraska that pays existing farm owners of agricultural resources. It gives them a tax credit to rent to a beginner rather than someone that's already established, so they can rent their land or their machinery or their breeding livestock, whatever it might be. And I think that's been an incentive. I know we've received a couple of grants at the university, received one, and then Legal Aid in Nebraska received one to work with beginning farmers to help them find a way to come back into farming. I think that's been successful. I know we have probably amongst the top one or two most aggressive farm service agency loan operations in the United States. Very good group to work with for beginners. They provide low interest loans, sometimes 1.5% interest loans to beginners to help them get started. You know, the TIP program has been there, which helps people that have had CRP programs. They can kind of get an extra payment if they rent to a beginner rather than taking the land out of CRP. So there's been several programs that have been available. Most of those, not all, but many of those have been available in other states, but our neighboring states haven't seen quite the increase, and some of them actually have gone down in beginning farmers.
Do you believe that the push to organic and the push to local farming has also played a role in seeing more beginning farmers?
I think it has. I think the natural area where beginners are able to get started, of course, is that where they can bring their labor and not a lot of capital, which is what they have. And that would be the less inputs like the organic, the truck garden type of farming. The other thing I think that's probably factored in here is we've just come through probably 5 or 6 of the most profitable farming years in the history of agriculture, especially in the row crop areas. And I know when I speak to a group of young agronomy students or something, a lot of hands go up in the audience as to who wants to come back to farm. And I think the possibility of making a good living has really contributed too.
This jump, this 42% jump, however, was an outlier compared to other Midwestern states, right?
It was. The next highest one was South Dakota, and you know, they were about 22% increase. Iowa actually went down. Kansas was exactly equal. Colorado went up 6%. Minnesota went down 4%. Illinois went up 8%. Nebraska went up 42%. So I think it's significant. I don't know exactly why, but I think it's significant. I'm happy to see it.
You close out your article in this Cornhusker Economics writing by saying that the agriculture is important and the health of rural communities depends on it. Expand on that.
Well, I think if we don't have beginning operators and younger operators coming into our communities, what happens is that we end up with more and more consolidation. The biggest owner down the street is the one that's likely going to come in and take over the business. And the impact on that is that we have probably one less family in the community, we have one less family sending kids to school, we have one less family sitting in the church pews. So I think that it benefits our entire community if we can add younger people back into our communities.
On the Market Journal website, we'll link to Dave's recent Cornhusker Economics article. We'll also link to information on the Nebraska Department of Ag's Next Gen program. One aspect of that program features the personal property tax exemption for beginning farmers, which has a deadline of November 1st.